But I think the idea for the club is to be a side that when they are expected to beat sides, they do it with possession and they're comfortable and they can keep 70% of the ball and make their opposition suffer without the ball. I think that's something that has never really been the strength of Real Madrid, even in the biggest games that we see in the Champions League, even in games that they have won in the past. Real Madrid down to 10 men for more than 80 minutes, and that heat, comprehensive performance to get the victory in the end.
Yeah, that was going to say. It was a shaky start, obviously not what they wanted. It's particularly Xabi Alonso, that red card for Asencio. But after that, definitely compared to what they produced in the first game, they certainly hit their stride. This was Real Madrid, I think, more of what we're going to start to see over the coming few games and obviously into next season.
Yeah, you do worry a little bit about the 25 shots that they give up in the game. A lot of those coming from crosses, from set pieces. Obviously, Pachuca with Solomon Rondon up front, you're thinking, let's try and get the ball to him as many times as possible. And they won a lot of headers, Pachuca, but didn't really threaten. I think when you're talking about, let's kind of drill in from a stylistic point of view. Real Madrid, I think, looked a bit more like a Xabi Alonso side in this game. You had the goalkeeper playing a bit higher. You had the defenders a little bit more committed to playing out from the back, and I thought that the possession was pretty solid when they had it. Obviously, you're down to 10 men. It's a different game, but you use the ball to kind of drain the energy out of the opponent to kind of equalize things a little bit because it is so hot. And I thought Vinny Jr. had the ball come through him a lot in wide areas and counter-attacking positions. And you see a Real Madrid side that were just absolutely clinical on the break, getting into those moments where Bellingham would stride into the attack. Arda Güler, I thought, was fantastic. I think he and Brahim Diaz might be the players that are unsung in this side for Real Madrid. But I think outside of Asencio get sent off, there are a lot of players that give a good account of themselves today.
And that was the comment, wasn't it, from Thibaut Courtois after the game against Al Hilal? He sort of said, look, this looked quite like a Ancelotti team rather than a Xabi Alonso team, and that's natural given he's not had too many games so far. But what do you think it is from the Ancelotti era that Xabi Alonso is going to try and build on and keep, and what are the things he's going to potentially, or did you notice that he's trying to change?
I think the big thing for him to change is reorienting the side as a side that is better than their opponents in possession. I think you will see this Real Madrid side do well to hit on the counterattack, to get into possession, or to get into sort of that open space where Vinicius Jr. can thrive. But I think the idea for the club is to be a side that when they are expected to beat sides, they do it with possession and they're comfortable and they can keep 70% of the ball and make their opposition suffer without the ball. I think that's something that has never really been the strength of Real Madrid, even in the biggest games that we see in the Champions League, even in games that they have won in the past. You go back to Manchester City when they beat them in the quarterfinal en route to beating them in the final 2 seasons ago. They largely did it against the ball. And so I think Xabi Alonso is trying to reorient them as a side that is more likely to attack, to have possession of the ball through midfield. I think have more of a building of a possession through midfield than we've seen in the past. I think Tchouaméni and Camavinga have not quite shown that they're quite there yet in terms of that ability. Huijsen brought in at center back is meant to change that as well, but you're meant to use the ball and then get it forward, disorganize the opponent, and then create opportunities. I think that's the biggest thing for them to figure out. I'm not certain that first game against Al Hilal, actually it was Al Hilal who had the majority of the ball and were better using it than Real Madrid. So I think that is the biggest thing that Courtois would be talking about.
In terms of the report card for the new signings, we discussed, didn't we, at length, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Dean Huijsen after the first game. Were they any better, do you think, today? Did they look a bit more comfortable? I thought Trent did, didn't he? Yeah,
I think Trent Alexander-Arnold certainly being involved in that goal will do him a world of good for his confidence, but I still don't think we're seeing those moments in games. Obviously, it's different when we're talking about playing down to 10 men, but the moments that we see Trent really come to life for Liverpool are when he has the ball in deep positions and all of a sudden he's hitting long passes or passes even over short distances where you're going, how did he see that? Where did that come from? That is a quality that only very few right backs have ever had, never mind in the modern game. So I think that's kind of what we're waiting to see. We're still not quite there yet, but obviously getting involved in the goal will help him. Huijsen, I think, has kind of been the solid player at the back for Real Madrid. You look at the first game, I thought he was reasonably solid, and then in this game as well, when you have a new center back partner after 7 minutes, it's Tchouaméni coming back from midfield into the center of defense. Then Rudiger comes in off the bench as well, and you're trying to figure out solutions when all of a sudden you go from being the new guy to the one kind of consistent piece in that back four as everything changes around you. I think that's a difficult situation. I thought he handled it very well. So I give him a fair bit of credit for how he handled himself on this day.
Yeah, it was a good performance. And another chance for Vinny Jr. to play on his own in the side as opposed to alongside Kylian Mbappé. Mbappé not playing again for Real Madrid. Do you think he enjoyed another opportunity to play, and with all of the focus on him? I thought, particularly in the second half, he played pretty well, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he expressed himself much better in this game than he did in the last. I think in the last game, he was struggling to find his way in a side that was struggling in possession. They were looking for answers. I think today, it was very clear after 7 minutes what the goal was, which is when you get the ball forward. Even there was one time where he had the ball one-on-one and could have attacked a Pachuca defender. Instead, he turns around, chooses to play back, wins a free kick, and you kind of allow your side to get up the pitch. Whereas it feels like in the past, every time he got the ball in open space, it was go, go, go at the defender. And I feel like he is trying to modulate his game a little bit. I think that's something that will take some adjusting, because it is not just as simple as when you get the ball in a wide area, go at your opposition. I think when you play in a possession-based system, you're meant to create a little bit more than that. You're meant to have a few different clubs in that bag. And I think that's what we're seeing from Vinicius Jr. is an adjustment of what is the decision-making tree other than go. And I think that's what he's struggling to figure out. But I think he did very well in that area today. Obviously, a brilliant footballer in his own right. Will have certainly a level of tactical sophistication to be able to handle these instructions. But it's new. It's different in this setup with this manager surrounded by these teammates. So I think he's figuring it out. But I thought he was very effective in getting the team forward in moments where they did not have numbers committed into the attack. He was able to invite, and he was able to hold the ball up while other players got involved.
In terms of Pachuca, obviously it was always going to be difficult for them today against a side with Real Madrid's quality. But do you think when you watch them, they are limited slightly? Obviously, he's tremendously experienced and a great player, Salomon Rondon, but he does limit you in some ways when you're going forward, because he's a fairly limited striker. He scores goals, but often in one particular way, and a team like Real Madrid was kind of able to defend against that today.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about Real Madrid being a team in transition with a new coach. Pachuca are very much the same thing. They're a different side than the side that qualified for this competition by winning the Concacaf Champions Cup. This is a side that have a new manager and Jaime Lozano, who's come in. Obviously, Rondon up front is the sort of focal point in the attack, but they're still figuring solutions out. So I'm not certain that they came into this tournament in their best moment, but you have to think, even against Real Madrid, you're up a man, this is the opportunity. Let's go. And to be fair, one of the things that we have not talked about is the saves that Thibaut Courtois made at 0-0. There were two important saves that he made to deny counter-attacking moments for Pachuca, where if they take advantage of them, they get a lead in the game, then all of a sudden you have that man advantage. You can make it tell that a little bit more. But I think really the failure for them in this game is that they weren't able to really make that advantage tell. And I understand that there is a quality gap, a big one, between your opposition and yourselves. But still, I think when you get the ball, you should be able to find open spaces, especially on a hot day in Charlotte, to figure out the spaces where you can play in possession, where is the extra man so we can play. And then when you talk about the limitations of Rondon, one of the biggest things you want to do is to get crosses into him in dangerous areas in the penalty area, because he's just bigger than everybody else. I don't think they were able really to do that. And I think for Pachuca, you have to look at this as an opportunity wasted, because this was, if you're ever going to beat Real Madrid, it's down to 10 men for more than 80 minutes in a blazing hot sun. So I think that'll be the feeling that they'll have today, understanding that they are a team in progress.
Just quickly, they've got Al Hilal in their final group game. How do you see them getting on in that one?
I think that they will be seeing the end of this competition. I think Al Hilal are better than Pachuca. I think they're better than Salzburg, the other side in this group. I think Real Madrid will get to 7 points. I'll be curious to see how Al Hilal get on, but for me, I think Al Hilal will be advancing in this competition, and it will be Pachuca that will be saying goodbye. I just don't think that they're quite at the level as presently constructed. If you see a side that's doing well, Liga MX in the top 3 and getting to semifinals and finals, that'd be one thing, but they ended the Clausura, the most recent tournament, gone in 8th. And so this is not a side that you would expect to do well at this competition at this moment.